it's going higher. It's going higher. And I'm going to show you a couple of things here of what happens to us as a country if the way the Federal Reserve has to stop inflation is raising interest rates, breaking the labor market, because you understand within there, even though there's this delay effect, that also means what you and I have to pay the interest back on all the borrowing. And the biggest part of the borrowing cycle has not even hit us yet, because we're just now starting to absorb and get ready for the huge spike in costs because of our demographics. Remember, baby boomers, the final tail end of the baby boomers is moving into their retirement benefits. And as they get slightly older and a little bit older, the Medicare costs start to really go up, and we haven't even hit that financing cycle. It's coming. What happens if we have to finance that at the higher interest rates? So you start looking at some of this. 3 months T-bill back in March, 0.2, and that was our Biden administration estimate for the 3-year. The actual 3-year right now, 1.75. Let's see, what's the difference between a 0.20 and a 1.75? Can anyone say a whole lot? This may not mean much to you, but this is money your taxes are going to be paying back. So here's the punchline. I'm going to make it really simple. What if this inflationary cycle stuck with us? What if instead of that, what was it, 1.78 or even the 2.3% interest rate on U.S. sovereign debt, what if it were 2 points higher, just 2% higher, which functionally 15 years ago, that's where we were at. Remember, we actually had a reprieve, completely fake economic reprieve for a decade with artificially low interest rates. So we were borrowing, and the Federal Reserve kept interest rates lower, particularly since 2008. And now we're about to pay the cost of it. So what would happen if we paid that 2% higher? Functionally at the end, and my math is a little bit less, the end of 30 years, 100% of all tax receipts, of all taxes, all tariffs, everything that comes into the government, 100% goes just to pay interest. You got to understand how sensitive we are as a government, as a society, as a country now, how fragile we've made ourselves, because we're going to borrow what, another 1 to 1.3, there's one estimate, $1.4 trillion this year. We're never paying anything off. We're borrowing, and it gets worse and worse because our demographics as we get older, unless we crash the price of healthcare. So that's going to be 2 weeks from now. We're going to talk about things we could do to accomplish that. But are you prepared to live in a country that if our mean interest rate goes up 2%, stays there? All tax receipts go just to cover our interest. There's no more government, there's no more military, there's no more benefits, there's no more Social Security, there's no more Medicare. This is why it's so crucial around here to have an honest conversation where people put batteries in their calculator. Instead, this place is living on theater. Oh, modern monetary policy. We can spend all the money we want. Look, nothing happened. Oh, got it. Didn't work. And in many ways, I can show you right now, the largest tax increase in modern history has happened in the last year. If the fact of the matter, you live in my Phoenix, Scottsdale area, and you are a working person, you are a hard-working taxpayer, and you have not had a pay hike, do you realize you've lost 6 weeks, maybe more, of your labor? We're still at 12.1% inflation in my community. You've lost 6 weeks of your labor. If I'd walked in and said, hey, I'm going to take a month and a half of your salary and that's going to be my new tax hike, you would have lost your mind. But if we do it through this thing called inflation, where we strip the affordability of your groceries and your gasoline and everything else in your life, Did you notice it? Well, you knew there's a problem. You know life has got much harder. You know sometimes you get to the checkout stand and you're taking things back because the price just doesn't work on your budget.